Last week Tarkov wiped, even though it wasn't supposed to before full release.
So that was a fucking lie.
So yeah, what time is better to start getting addicted again than now? For those of you who don't know, this wipe is the hardcore wipe, meaning the already difficult game is going to get even worse. Things cost more, you earn less, making the game really hard. I can't even insure my gear because it's 450,000. So yeah, I'm definitely not looking forward to subjecting myself to the tournament known as Escape from Tarkov again. I love Tarkov, but I also hate Tarkov, and I think most players have this love and hate relationship with Tarkov. So if you want to hear why I think Tarkov is a good game, but why I still wouldn't recommend it at its current stage, then stick around. Tarkov is a combination between a realistic first-person shooter, a horror game, and a misery simulator in one. So you have without a doubt read all the terrible things about Escape from Tarkov online. It's not looking too good for Tarkov overall. But like myself, you have been roped in by the graphics, gunplay, and that sweet loot. And you're probably wondering if this is a good time to start playing Tarkov. So I've decided to return to Tarkov, so you don't have to. Tarkov can be hard, especially if you are playing as a solo, as most players you will run into are playing on a team, and there is no solo player only mode. Bro, there's 3 of them, of course there's 3. Man, everybody plays in a team. In this hardcore wipe, I've already had to reset my account not once, but twice because I ran out of rubles. Now if you Google Escape from Tarkov, or go on Reddit, Tarkov might sound very horrible at this point, and I know it's kinda the meta to hate on Tarkov. But listen, it's not all bad. I really think Tarkov is a good and fun game. I know this is literally against most of the things you can read online, but I think a lot of people are just hating on Tarkov because that's what everybody does. And I honestly disagree and feel like Tarkov is as good as you make it for yourself. There is a reason why this game had many players clocking in thousands of hours, myself included. And that is the game's realism. At times. I mean, it even has crazy ballistics, such as penetration on rounds, bullets shattering and fragmenting into players and so on. Now I'll stop lying, you play for the loot. Now, let's get to the review and talk about what Tarkov does good, and let's start out with its atmosphere. Tarkov is great at creating intense moments. I've never played a game that can get my adrenaline pumping like Tarkov. The stress and excitement you get when you win a firefight and all that sweet loot is now yours to bring home to your stash.
Give him to me!
Oh my god, I shit my pants. Holy and sit there forever because of gear fear. I have, however, never played something that has made me want to do a backflip out of my window as much as Tarkov makes me want to do when dying with quest items on you. You won't find anything that rivals Tarkov's gritty and high-stakes atmosphere, and insanely good gunplay anywhere on the market. That doesn't mean Tarkov is perfect in any way, but we will get more into that later. Tarkov simply has the biggest wins I've ever felt in a game, when I kill other players or any of the bosses. At the same time, it has the biggest losses. When you die, you literally die. All your loot is gone, all your progress is gone, and I know it sounds bad, but it makes you play cautiously. You play slow, methodical, even scared I'd say. The adrenaline is rushing when you're near the exits with high value items. You jump when getting shot at. I've never played something before that does that to me. And all of this is why I think Tarkov is such a good game. And why in my opinion there's nothing like Tarkov. That's especially true if you play as a solo, as you play a little more reckless if you have teammates with you. And if you're like me and don't have friends to play with, you're in luck, cause the game has VoIP, so you can try and make allies with other players. Mate, I'm sorry, we could be friends, you know? We have nothing, bro. He did not want to be friends. Or just hang out with your fellow friendly breakies as a scav.
Дайте аптечку, пацаны, вот выживаем.
Солево,
Вот
солево, солево,
солево немного.
пожалуйста. Морфий солево.
But in all seriousness, the VoIP is very nice to have. It can create some very funny moments, but it is the internet, so you obviously will encounter some toxic players. Next, let's talk about Tarkov's gunplay. The gunplay simply feels really good, and is one of the big reasons why people play it. Sure, they make some god-awful changes to recoil every now and then, but the sound and aesthetics of the guns are unmatched in my opinion. And get ready for my hot take. I think Tarkov's Gunplay is a 9 out of 10. The random recoil bounces can be annoying, but other than that, you can feel the different bullets' velocities, you can feel the impact of the different bullets. The guns sound genuinely good. I know people say the AR-15 rifles have unrealistic recoil, but yeah, it doesn't feel that bad. And right now, to be honest, in this wipe, the recoil overall isn't that bad. It's been way worse. Next, let's talk about the customization. The game also has the best customization of weapons I have ever seen. How legit it is, I have no idea. I'm from Europe and we're scared of firearms. But you can make some really cool looking guns and outfits. You can also make some very meme-worthy ones. Again, adding to what I would call realism in the game. But you probably shouldn't take my word for it. The only gun I've ever seen was on TV. But you can't only customize your weapons, you can also choose different armors, the plates inside the armors, and even your clothing. You're also so lucky that you get microtransactions, so you can spend real life money on virtual clothing. I love gaming in 2025. Overall, Tarkov is a very in-depth and has many different systems such as skills, weapons, weapon durability, the biggest list of keybinds I've ever seen in a game, tons of different quests, and most important of all, the flea market. Not this wipe though. Next, let's talk a little about the actual hardcore wipe, because damn, is that dividing the player base. I actually think that as a veteran player who knows how to progress, it's really fun. The struggle, in my opinion, is what makes Tarkov fun. As a new player though, yeah, this wipe is hell. But as a seasoned player, I think it is fun, and definitely something you at least should come back and give a try. I think some things they went the wrong way about, like doubling the items you need for your stash, and to be honest, it feels like they're trying to bend their player's arm to pay real life money for bigger stash space. But the no flea market and low sell prices at vendors is actually really fun. You really start appreciating your good items, and I honestly think gear fair makes the game better in my opinion, as it adds to the game's atmosphere. It also makes your wins against other geared players feel very rewarding. Next, I want to talk about Tarkov's balancing. And please, before you beat up the dislike button and tell me to delete my channel, at least let me make my argument about why I think the balancing in Tarkov is fine. Sure, if you listen to the top 1% of players, the right peak versus left peak, desync abusing, ping abusing, pre-firing, and all these sweaty tactics might seem absolutely game ruining, and they probably are for these very competitive players. But matter of the fact is, most players won't ever get to a point where they will experience these issues. For most players like myself who, well, are not the best. Oh no. The fight comes down to who got the drop on who and who got lucky. In Tarkov you can wear the best gear affordable to you and still get one shot by a guy who has close to nothing, so you can potentially win every fight. The more gear you have just gives you a better chance, but also adding to the stakes you take. Now I would say that the pay to win gives a big early game advantage, but even with bad guns, all you need is a couple of good rounds and you can still take them down. The pay to win is disgusting though. Now let's talk about the PvE version of Tarkov, and before you report me to YouTube for spreading untrue information, please let me explain why I think the PvE is good. The PvE version of Tarkov is something that really divides the player base, as it's usually seen as a PvE versus PvP scenario. I, however, think it should be seen as two sides of the same game, and not something that divides players into two different competitors. The PvE can be very good for new players to learn the ropes without running into tryhards or hackers. You will, however, still meet aimbotters. They are now just controlled by the AI instead of real human beings. The PvE can also easily be enjoyed by seasoned players. I myself have more than 1000 hours in Tarkov and still really enjoy playing the PvE. It's a more relaxing experience for times when I don't want to try hard. Whether that be when you come home tired from work or if you just got killed over and over in the PvP.
Hi, how are you?
Nice. Hit Jaws. Nice. It can be a nice way to play Tarkov without getting dumpstered. PvE can also be good for practicing new weapons, maps, and other stuff, as the AI is not so easy that you will never lose a fight against them. They can be a real challenge, especially when you're not just sniping at them. He yelled at me, so I got scared and ran to my death. Also because it seems in PvE that the scavs are endless. They will hunt you to the ends of the earth. So yeah, I think PvE is healthy for Tarkov. My friends who are returning to Tarkov doesn't want to play the PvP because it's too demanding for them, and they instead want to practice in the PvE before heading to PvP. And I think this is a very good purpose for PvE, to prepare players for the PvP, and not something that should be seen as a competitor to the PvP servers. In PvE, you can also try and hunt bosses that you never get to play against in PvP because the cheaters and tryhards would have gotten them before you. The bosses are still as bullshit in PvE as they are in PvP, so you won't fight them on easy mode, you will actually get to practice against them. You will also be able to get to the end game and play with the best of kits available all the time, helping you lose your gear fear. But by far one of the biggest wins for the PvE is that your account never gets reset, allegedly.
That PvE will also be wiped, but not forced wipe.
The only real downsides to the PvE, in my opinion, is that it's a paid add-on. It's kinda scummy. It should be part of the standard package, in my opinion. Next, let's talk about the game's graphics. Tarkov has, in my opinion, some very good graphics, but it does come at a cost. I run Tarkov at the absolute lowest settings to avoid playing in slow motion. But if your system can handle the higher graphics, the game looks amazing. And even on the lower graphics, the game doesn't really look that bad. And the weapons actually look very well detailed and somewhat photorealistic. But as mentioned, not everything in Tarkov is perfect. Far from it, to be exact. So let's head into what problems Tarkov has. And first, let's talk about a big one, the new player experience. All of these different systems within Tarkov can be hard to comprehend for a new player, but the worst part for a new player is to actually do an extraction. And this is where Battlescam Games really did their homework with the new player experience and made a very nice tutorial system for new players. Because once you spawn into a raid, then that's it, you are on your own, good luck. Don't know how the maps look? Figure it out. How do you extract? Figure it out. How do you even survive a raid? That's the neat part, you don't. So it's safe to say the new player experience isn't fun. Next, let's talk about the grind in Tarkov. Tarkov sure is made for people who have multiple hours every day to play, as the grind in the game is huge. Dare I say it's made for the unemployed and streamers. If you watch my other videos, you will know I like grind. I actually welcome it. But Tarkov is just insane. Most players will never get to see the true endgame. A lot of the quests are too much of a grind for the average player. While I do enjoy having the quests in the game to give me a sense of direction, I will say the quests grind is a negative for most players. And too many items are locked behind these quests for people to just ignore them. Many of them, however, can be fun to complete, but the problem more lies in the time it takes to complete them. I personally don't mind them any longer, because I've played multiple wipes now and know the best strategies for many of them, but for new players, they are absolute hell. Moving on. Next, let's talk about a problem that sadly is very relevant: cheating. Tarkov is littered with cheaters, so no, the people whining online are not just coping for lack of skill. Tarkov has a real cheating problem, which is tied to the devs' negligence. It has been a problem for years with how many cheaters there are in Tarkov, and especially this wipe, they're annoying, as you are already struggling with gearing up. Hopefully, BSG will be way more aggressive towards getting hackers banned and getting better anti-cheat for when the big full release comes around. And lastly, I want to talk about the game's performance, because the performance is very bad, especially when you play Streets of Tarkov. I mean, look at this, I can't even steer my character with this amount of lag. Okay, this is edited to look worse than it is, but you get the point. It really is not well optimized. Hardware gap between players makes a huge difference in Tarkov, as some players can't even pull 60 frames per second, which puts them at a huge disadvantage. And it gets even worse in the PvE version of Tarkov if you play solo, as your PC now hosts the match, making you drop to even lower frames than you would in PvP. So before buying Tarkov, make sure you have a decently powerful PC, else you won't have the best of results. But it's it's not only with the frames that the game is poorly optimized, because Tarkov is basically a loading screen simulator. You will spend so much time looking for games, and it's really not fun spending up to 10 minutes looking for a game only to die in 2 minutes. So yeah, the matchmaker could definitely use some optimization. Now, let's talk about scams within Tarkov. And oh boy, there are many. There are so many microtransactions in Tarkov. The pay to win is stuff such as better starting gear, better trader rep, bigger stash, and so on. Especially this hardcore wipe, I think some of the pay to win has a big impact. Specifically the stash base, which is where you store your items after a raid. You can pay real cash to expand this thing. I have so much loot now that I have nowhere to put it. I have 5 spaces left and I had to fit all of this in here. Nikita, this is why nobody plays your game. And this wipe, hideout upgrades cost more items to upgrade, meaning it takes more of your stash base, which you are already very limited on as a standard package player. And that's not to talk about all the starting gear players with pay to win packages have. And to everybody saying it's not pay to win, it's pay to advantage. That is the same thing. Doesn't matter how big the so-called advantage is. If you can buy an advantage, then it's pay to win. But the most shady thing about Tarkov is the developers themselves. They have shown they are not afraid to go back on promises and try and deceive their player base and lie about claims that they have made earlier to squeeze every penny out of their players. They simply do not respect their player base, and it seems everything they do is never according to any plans. Just see this wipe. This hardcore wipe was never supposed to have happened, but here we are. The wipe thing honestly isn't really a problem for me. It didn't cost me anything. It's more the fact that I feel I can't trust them, as they change things all the time to fit their agenda and not to benefit their players. Which honestly should be a studio's main priority. There are countless videos on their Unheard Edition controversy, so I won't go into more detail about it as there's already really detailed videos on YouTube covering it. So yeah, overall that's just something you seriously need to think about before you buy Tarkov. So let's get to the conclusion. It's really hard for me to rate Tarkov, because honestly, it's my favorite shooter and I love playing it. If I were to only rate the gameplay of Tarkov, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. But I have to be realistic, so I will only rate Tarkov a 6 out of 10. With the biggest drawback being the absurd pricing for microtransactions, problems with cheaters, and the horrible new player experience. The game literally hates new players and wants to make them quit. Another huge drawback is BSG themselves. Because of how shady I find the developers to be, they have proven that they are not to be trusted, and that also deducts some points for me. So I would recommend Tarkov for the gameplay, as I think Tarkov delivers a very fun and unique experience, but because of battle state games, I find it hard to recommend to people. My final verdict is that the standard edition of Tarkov is worth it to buy, and I also think upgrading with PvE is worth it, but the rest I do not think is worth it, especially the Unheard Edition. I think BSG also knows that, because why else would they name it the Unheard Edition? Because the pricing of $250 is literally unheard of. I would, however, recommend new players to wait for the 1.0 full release of Tarkov, as this wipe is not fun first time playing experience. Neither do we know if BSG will actually stick to their word and fully launch the game in the next wipe. So yeah, in conclusion, Tarkov is good. But late 2025 is not the right time to buy it. And it really pains me to say, because as I said, I love playing the game, and there is a reason I've played for more than 1000 hours. Before ending this video, I just want to say thank you for all the support I've been getting on my videos. Many of you have been very generous and liking my videos and commenting on them, and it really does motivate me to make more videos. So yeah, again, thank you for watching my video, and if you liked it, please drop a like, and if you didn't like it, then dislike it. If you have any constructive feedback, don't be hesitant to leave a comment about it. If you want to see more, you can also subscribe to my channel. Anyways, thank you for watching, and remember, never spend your hard-earned cash on unappreciating greedy game studios.